for a lot of small businesses, they never had access to publisher inventory. Like, they could buy on Google, they could buy on Facebook, but they never really had the opportunity to buy directly with a premium brand. So what this platform really does is it democratizes the ability for any advertiser, big or small, to access that, to book their media campaign, to set the targeting and audiences that they want to reach, to add their creative and create a campaign. So we're kind of opening the door for anyone to buy media.
You are listening to Power Marketing with Kevin Lee. Kevin and his agency Did It have helped thousands of businesses win through superior marketing, as have his books, articles, speaking engagements, and the E-Marketing Association Power Marketing podcasts. Here's Kevin.
Super excited actually to be chatting with Jeffery Mayer, who is the head of product and managing director of the U.S. DanAds is a platform that is, innovating in the areas of programmatic and relies heavily on pre-bid, where we were at the pre-bid summit together and had a really good conversation there. So wanted to welcome him to the podcast and find out first, what's the elevator pitch for DanAds for folks who aren't familiar with it?
Well, actually, we aren't relying on pre-bid at all.
Okay.
But yeah, like our elevator pitch is essentially we're the industry leading provider of self-serve advertising technology. We build custom white label platforms for our publishers and media owners that essentially automate media buying and selling. It's not done programmatically. We connect directly into our publishers' technology systems like ad servers and OMS and CRM systems, and we automate the flow of media. So it's essentially a portal that advertisers can use to book their own media campaigns that are guaranteed direct, just like their direct sales team would sell out to an agency. So that's essentially what we're building for our publisher clients right now.
Great. Well, I can certainly see that'd be really powerful for the publishers and the advertisers. A lot of advertisers want direct access to publishers and are happy to have self-serve, I guess. Is that the primary advantage for them?
Yeah, there's a lot of reasons for advertisers to use the tool. For a lot of small businesses, they never had access to publisher inventory. Like, they could buy on Google, they could buy on Facebook, but they never really had the opportunity to buy directly with a premium brand. So what this platform really does is it democratizes the ability for any advertiser, big or small, to access that, to book their media campaign, to set the targeting and audiences that they want to reach, to add their creative and create a campaign. So we're kind of opening the door for anyone to buy media without exorbitant costs, that they would typically get, maybe doing it programmatically, or it's not as technically complex as buying it programmatically, particularly for like these small advertisers where, they understand the platform, they understand how Facebook works, they understand Google AdWords, but, you give them the keys to a DSP, it might be a little bit, beyond what their capabilities are, or it just might be too complex of a system for what they need. But that also doesn't limit us to open the door for larger agencies and, large advertisers. We have plenty of them using our platform now. It gives them the ability to take control of the media buy. It eliminates a lot of the manual steps back and forth between media planning and direct IO and signing the IO and sending it back and then trafficking all the creatives. So we eliminate and automate a lot of these steps for both sides. So from an efficiency standpoint, it saves, several days to weeks by using our platforms.
Yeah, I can certainly see the removal of the minimums. A lot of aspirational small businesses might think like for whether it's their local, digital version of their newspaper, which, may be pretty big. They may be like, oh, that's out of range. And they're used to 15 years ago when they called the sales rep and they said, oh, yeah, minimum buy is $20,000, right? And so they're used to that. So this sort of removes that barrier and aspirationally they can go in there and buy inventory that seemed unattainable before.
Yeah, exactly. And a lot of it is, just the limitation in operational efficiency or sales efficiency. Um, for you to create a campaign in an ad server and set up all the targeting and run all the reporting, just the times that you spend on that, you kind of requires you to set that minimum budget. But if you can develop the process that, takes that layer out or that manual workload out, then there's no reason not to open the door for these smaller advertisers that have, a $300 budget or $50 budget or $1,000 budget. And, even, if you consider that to be the long tail, it really opens up that channel for a publisher to drive that incremental revenue that isn't competitive to their programmatic media buys. It's not competitive to their agency direct buys. It's really creating that third layer of opportunity for them. In addition to, hopefully they're using it for the larger spend as well.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Do publishers, when they're using the white label platform, decide if they want to set minimums? I mean, obviously, at a certain point, they may want to not bother. Taking a buy.
Yeah, there's it's fully configurable. So like, in your administrative settings, you can configure every aspect of the platform that you want, going down to what your minimum and what your maximum budget thresholds are. So if you want to use it as a tiered system within your organization, you can do that and still protect yourself from, we don't want to set the $5 buy. That's really not worth it. So you have full autonomy to create whatever gates that you want in the system, and also create different gates in terms of the user type. I might have a completely different user flow for a larger brand or advertiser or agency than I would with a small business. And maybe my rate cards are slightly different. My product offerings are slightly different. What I expose to users is different in terms of how advanced do you want to get with targeting. Something simple might just be pick your geo, while something advanced is like, here are 10,000 key values that you can select from. You really get to play around with what you want to expose to the user.
Right. So I sort of like to think about it a little like, when there's middle people or middleware, middle entity, and that gets squeezed out in an ecosystem, both sides like to claim that they got most of the benefit, right? So it's sort of think like real estate. If it's for sale by owner, the seller thinks like, oh, this is really great. I didn't have to pay a broker or sales commission. And the buyer thinks, oh, this is really great. I'm going to be able to push the seller down by the 6% or whatever it is, right? The reality is somewhere in between. And there are all sorts of, in addition to sort of the pricing layers that you guys remove, there's sort of operational efficiencies too, right? Because you've got ad ops people that perhaps don't need to get involved to the same extent because they're not doing deal IDs via a DSP or SSP, And so how do you think it ends up shaking out? Like the reality, like who ends up getting most of the benefit of the removal of all the layers?
Well, luckily, I know that reality. I was on the publisher side for 13 years. So I worked at Shazam and SoundCloud in my past, where we actually onboarded DanAds, where I'm looking now. The use case that I found for it was, we were opening it up for a specific vertical of client. And by doing that, we eliminated about 85-90% of my work. So I can tell you firsthand, it saves time. You get a media plan, it's an Excel doc, then I have to upload all those line items into the order. I have to upload all the creatives into the order. I have to spot check it, make sure it's running correctly on the page. Then I have to activate it, monitor it, and then I have to report on it, do my post-campaign analysis on that campaign, and then I have to book all that revenue that I created in the ad server, and then I have to manually set that up into my CRM system. So there's just a lot of work that I was able to just not have to do. So this is maybe the best thing ever that I've ever used in terms of ad tech. So I've done it twice, and I can speak to it from a publisher perspective because I'm that guy that I know what their pain is.
Right.
So yeah, from an efficiency standpoint, it does a lot, but then it also offers you time to be more strategic about other things. You know, our jobs are not getting simpler; they're getting more complex. The amount of technology that we have to use is growing. Um, the amount of workload that we have on our plates is always more and more and more. It never gets lighter. So if I can take, a majority of my wasted or manual task time, set that aside, and then work on something bigger, a larger vision, then I'm exponentially more valuable to my organization.
Right. Right. That's a good point. You're like overqualified to be doing trafficking.
Right. I think most people are.
Yeah. So as far as the publishers that are live in the platform now, is it that they typically start with just sort of IB display units, or are they like jumping in with both feet and they're doing video pre-roll and they're doing other forms of advertising as well, and sort of just really trying to automate into all the various ad units at the same time?
Yeah, I think when DanAds first started is mostly around display, but I think that was mostly just with the client base that they had at the time. But as we've grown, we've done things that are very CTV specific or print, digital, audio. So we work across all media formats, and we're agnostic to media format. So it's really up to the publisher's own media mix of what they offer, through ad sales or through their inventory. We'll support whatever they have. That there's no reason why we shouldn't. So a lot of our recent clients, I think fall more into like the CTV. We're starting to lean potentially into linear as well, just because we're attracting those clients now.
Right. Right. Well, I would imagine that these smaller clients and other headwind that they've faced in participating in some publishers that they wanted aspirationally is they may not have the creative assets, right? And it seems like you guys are solving for that issue at the same time, which maybe you can't on the CTV side, by auto generating. Yeah. Oh, even on the CTV side. Okay.
Yeah.
So, I'd love to hear more about that, like the DCO side of things, where for somebody who doesn't have a big internal creative team that can do this stuff, like, can they still get access to this inventory?
Yeah. So within our platform, every client has access to our creative builder, which is essentially a suite of options that allow an advertiser to upload, create, or use a tag, third-party tag for their creative. So it's again up to the publisher what types of formats that they allow. But from a display perspective, we have this really easy to use creative builder template. You upload your logo, you upload your image into the media gallery. You choose all your body text and font family and all the configuration of the ad itself, and then we automate, not necessarily like a DCO, but we automate by size. So we have your standard 720 by 90, your 300 by 600, your 320 by 50, and all 5 other ad formats readily available to that template.
Right.
The reason why we don't necessarily focus on DCO is because publishers typically want eyes on creative and creative messaging, and DCO automates messaging and the imagery behind it. So with all those variables in place, as a direct buy, publishers typically, would want more of a fixed ad. The other thing that we really solve for, like you said on CTV, is through video, and we also support audio through AI. So we have this builder. You basically, plug in your brand URL of what you want, your company, and it auto generates all your brand assets for them. So it'll pull everything off your website, all your images, your copy, your brand messaging, and you can configure that however you want, pull in new images, exclude other things. And then when you hit generate, it'll generate a video that's, approved by almost every, platform out there that runs video. So it works on desktop video and CTV. There are ads right now that use our technology for that. And the same thing with the audio aspect of it, where it's text to audio, you pick your voice of the actor, quote unquote, AI actor, and background music, and it creates an audio spot within seconds. And the other benefit of having these kind of auto generated tools or AI generated tools is it reduces the production cost as well. So going back to that small advertiser, where they don't have $1,500 to $50,000 to spend creating video ad. It's just not in their budget. They're hamstrung enough trying to, get $500 for a media buy. And then you can't tack on that extra expense of something that's high-end creative, but these tools are high-end. It gives them something that's, clean and brand safe and quality. So they could use that at a fraction of the cost of trying to really find a production company out there. They're not BMW commercials, right? They're not the best of the best, but for what you get with it, it is an actual really good video experience that any publisher would adopt.
Yeah, I would agree. Some mid-size advertisers, if you ask them, what would you prefer, a 10% less snazzy, production value, but ability to buy more media against it, they'd pick that. They'd be like, okay, it's a little less, it's okay, gets my point across, but I would prefer to put that budget towards the media itself, not the production. Yeah. So that's,
it'll be great if someone sells a Super Bowl ad to our platform, but we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, I think when you're spending, millions a spot, it's a different calculus.
Yeah. But again, our goal is to democratize advertising as much as possible. And that means providing the tools that are simple to use and the tools that are priced right for an advertiser to use. So from complexity to ability to be able to get it done is really important to us.
Right. Well, you mentioned that an advertiser, if they're using a third-party ad server, could, run, traffic that third-party ad tag as well.
Yeah.
And at that point, I guess it would queue up creative approval in much the same way that it would already, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they're connecting directly into the publisher ad server. So, if you're an agency and you have your ad tags and you plug them right into our system, what we're doing is we're just taking that ad tag and pushing that right into the ad server exactly how they would have trafficked it anyway. We're just automating the process of it. So it gets, booked into the ad server of their choice, and they can review those creatives, allow them or reject them as they want. They could also gate them to, hey, look, we only want these clients to have access to a third-party tag option, and everybody else through our platform can only either upload or use our generator tool.
Right.
And that again controls the level of comfort that you want to give to any particular advertiser or agency. So
when you described it that way, it actually brought me to another thing I hadn't even thought of, which is the large enterprise advertisers have a very different perspective on brand safety than the SMBs, right? And so there may be some, let's see, overly tight brand safety guidelines that the bigger advertisers are putting in place, where the smaller advertisers are like, no, that's fine. That's, it's news. I mean, I want to be on the news page. It's a newspaper, right? And so they may be happy to use your system and not implement any brand safety filters because, I mean, with the exception of adult level brand safety, obviously, but they're much more permissive with regards to where their ads show up, because they're like, no, this is my audience in my town, and I sell cars, and I just want to be there for those people. I would imagine that has a positive yield implication because, the publisher can then say, well, if I'm afraid that it's going to get blocked, I'm going to go ahead and make sure that this inventory is more likely to get filled through DanAds.
Yeah, and that's the other thing is that because we're dealing with very specific clients, through our self-serve platform, right now, every single one of our publishers is ultra premium, like the best of the best inventory. I think that you'll be hard pressed to find any other platform that has the clientele matrix that we do in terms of how like premium, I would call it, is, and how brand safe it is. Obviously, CTV channel can have R-rated content. Yeah, you can certainly create those brand safety blocks for that, but I don't think that any advertiser ever has to worry about going to like Roku as, oh, am I going to get something that's safe for my brand? And the same thing for other companies that we work with, like TripAdvisor. So
Sure.
So I think that we've done a really good job in terms of keeping the focus on really premium, amazing inventory. And then from the other side of it is allowing publishers to have control over what they allow on their platform to run. So we automate like the ad specs, like file size, file type, all that, to make sure it meets the minimum criteria for that side of the fence. But then from a visual perspective, is this brand safe content or brand safe ad? A publisher can go in, manually review the creator they want, hit approve, and then it pushes in the ad server. So you have your choice of how you do it. And again, we could either fully automate that if you're okay with the advertiser and like we don't need eyes on it, or you really want those safety checks before something goes live, you can implement that.
Right. Yeah, I would imagine that a lot of local publishers in particular, are all over the map with regards to how much first-party data they have on their readers, right? They may have gated some content and so have a pretty good CDP and CRM where that could then be used for targeting purposes. And then others maybe never gated their content and only recently started putting modals up to get people to register, right? So what are some examples, without naming names, of sort of, where there's a really robust level of targeting data and how that changes the way the advertiser can sort of be more picky in the kinds of, key pairs that they're picking, right? Because they want to be pretty niche versus, okay, a different publisher may not have gotten as far down the first party data journey, right? And so they have to rely more on context and geography and time of day because they don't have as much information.
Yeah. In terms of like what's available in the platform, again, it's tough to quantify that question just because every publisher is so unique.
Yeah.
Every client is so unique in terms of what they expose. But when they build their products in our platform, they're basically choosing, okay, this media format can run in this country or this group of countries for this price, and we're going to allow an advertiser to choose this type of targeting criteria, whether it's location, demo, or genre or interest targeting. And from within that context of our key values, we may have 1,000 at our disposal, but really only 20 of them are really popular for advertisers to actually use. So why show the other 800 of them? Like, there's no reason to. So they can curate their media products differently.
Mm-hmm.
They can create again, like different pricing for each one or each type, and the level of capabilities is always going to differ from publisher to publisher in terms of first party. But I think that's also going to become more important as we go forward because of what's happening with cookies. Is that first party data is going to be the transaction of choice for everybody, right? So, publishers that don't have a robust way of creating first party are going to have to figure it out. But, that's, I think, the challenge for a lot of people.
Do you feel like there'll be like a sweet spot of sort of publisher size? Because obviously, you need a decent percentage of your readership to have volunteered their, to built up some first party data, right? You can obviously build anonymous first-party data profiles on a cookie basis, but once you attach, PII to that, then it becomes, much more robust. You can still anonymize it, obviously, but do you feel like there's a sweet spot of publisher size where you think that their ability to deliver robust targeting on a first-party basis is just going to be head and shoulders above what the smaller folks will be stuck doing?
Yeah, I mean, it kind of always comes down to scale,
Mm.
and quality. Any publisher that I would say, like, you create an audience segments for auto intenders and you're not auto, content publisher, then you're going to struggle with that.
Right.
Particularly if that audience pool is very small and you either sell out super quickly because there's just not enough inventory to maintain, or it wasn't real in the first place. So
yeah, which a lot of people would argue.
yeah. So, it's a tough one. I think, as you're creating audiences, like you, and this is an opinion, my own, but you need at least 1 million users in any kind of a audience target to make it valuable.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know the answer to that one. But yeah, I would say scale comes into play, like, with everything. If you only have a small amount of inventory to sell out in the first place, then you're capped at a certain amount threshold anyway.
Yeah. Well, you guys certainly have a lot of premium publishers in using your system now. For any publishers who happen to be watching this and are starting to think like, oh, this would be really cool. Where's your wheelhouse start? Like, at what point, how many million uniques a month when should they start to give your sales team a call?
I mean, there's calls regardless. Because what we also do is a lot of consultative kind of work, and it's not about making a sale for our sales team. It's about making sure, are you right to offer self-serve? Because maybe you're not. Maybe you don't have the scale for it. But it's also about operationally, do you have buy-in from every person in your company, from your CFO, your CEO, your CMO, down to your trafficking, ad ops and ad coordinators. Like, you really need buy-in even from the sales teams before you start this journey, because it's only going to create conflicts if you're not getting that buy-in. But also it's a complete structural change of how you do business. And in order to take those steps, you need the right approach. And by onboarding a technology, no matter who it is, or trying to build it in-house, which a lot of publishers try to do, it may work or it may not. You build it and they don't come. That's not what self-serve is. It's not a field of dream scenario. It's just as much work to get advertisers using the platform, to educate them on the platform, to drive traffic to the platform. You really need a marketing strategy to do that. You need your sales team to understand what the benefits are for them, for them to drive more commissions and more sales. And same thing with ad ops, and the CFO has to understand, the investment in this technology is going to be out of pocket, but we're going to see a return on the efficiency standpoint, and we're going to be able to grow our business in other areas that we've always been, it's always been difficult to grow in those certain perspectives, just because we're so manual labor focused. So those are a lot of things that we consider. So it's not just publisher scale and inventory, it's also right approach, right organizational approach, and right strategy and go-to-market strategy that we're talking about. So give me a call.
Yeah, you're happy to chat. I would imagine that sometimes the education process for the internal sales team is one of the headwinds that you might face, right? Because any change for them is scary, and they sort of feel comfortable in whatever way they're doing it, even if it's not the most efficient for the enterprise overall. So are there any sort of best practices with regards to sort of enlightening the sales team
Yeah.
on what actually makes their jobs better?
Yeah, well, so let's go back to when programmatic started, right? It was always that danger of I'm going to lose my job.
Right.
I'm not going to get paid commission on programmatic media. And then certain publishers found a really smart way to do it by, you sell P&P deals, you get, that commission, right? You get credit for those deals that you sell through programmatically. I would consider self-serve more of a direction back to the direct side, right? It is direct sold media. It is not programmatic. As a separate conversation, yes, we support programmatic in a different way, but for all intents and purposes, it is direct sold media. It's guaranteed. It's premium, and we have the capability to assign a salesperson to an order. That's not hard.
Yeah.
Right. It's right in our platform. Enter salesperson. So that could either be on an account level, it could be on an individual campaign order level. It's up to, again, the publisher to determine how am I going to pay out my sales team for this. And, particularly if I'm thinking in one scenario, I'm a local seller, right? And instead of trying to get that advertiser to then call up and then book an order, through our team, why don't I train my advertiser account on the platform? They're my account. And let them book their own media and call me as a resource if they need me. But then now I freed up time to go sell another client and then another client. So I freed up, again, more time to actually do sales by handing the keys of this platform over to my advertiser. It just makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure that everybody on the publisher side is happy that the advertiser's doing their own ad ops, for sure, right?
Well, yeah. That's the thing, is that it is gated. So yeah, think about it, an advertiser walking into a publisher's ad server, that would just be a nightmare. I wouldn't want to do it.
I really
yeah, like oh my God, yeah. And I think that's what came out of our platform and what we built, and why it's the way that it is that it has these guardrails on it where you can't make those errors in trafficking. It's impossible to make an error in trafficking the system, because we specifically designed it to only offer this type of inventory for this media channel in this location with this targeting criteria that you're allowed to pick. It's really up to the advertiser to understand, okay, what type of audience am I trying to buy if I have access to this? So, the salesperson can still make recommendations.
Right.
And we offer education on the platform in terms of, oh, you're a media buyer, consider these things.
Right.
As you build your strategy. But yeah, you probably never want to give your ad server away to any advertiser, big or small.
No,
you don't want to.
The moderation layer is key,
No.
right?
And as an ad ops team, you never want to give your ad server to anyone, not internally within your own organization. I would never let my marketing team have access to the ad server, or at least they'd only get read-only access. Like, no one touches the ad server but the ad ops team. Like, that's just the way it is. Or at least in my view, that's the way it should be.
Yep.
So yeah, you put those controls in place. The platform's there as a safety mechanism. You can assign your commission into it. And again, just automate that process from beginning to end. From, when you're first importing the order details, even in the CRM, we can extract all the information into our system. So don't duplicate the work that you just did. Right. And then for your finance and billing, don't pull out the data and then email it. We'll just push it. So again, we're just taking all those little steps that you usually have to take and making it streamlined and making it easy, and hopefully will be the future of how media is transacted on.
Right, right. Great point. Well, advertising works best when it's sort of the right audience, right message, right time. Are there any examples that you can think of where, now that things are available on a self-serve basis, where you've just been, heard through the grapevine, or somebody said, "Hey, take a look at this campaign. I can't believe this little scrappy organization pulled off this amazingly effective campaign that you just was surprised to everybody."
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny, there's a little bit of separation between church and state with our company, where our clients have full control and autonomy with their platforms. It's their platform, right?
Right.
It's their branding, and the way that they work with their advertisers is strictly up to them. We have no involvement in, how advertisers are performing. If they perform really well for a specific campaign. I can only tell you about my own experience in
Right, when you were
offering the platform. Right, when I was the guy. So, the biggest trick is to show value. As a small business, particularly, if I'm spending my hard-earned money on a media campaign, I need to know what works. It can't be, it's okay if it works or not. No, it has to. It's my livelihood at stake. It's, my business at stake. It's my family at stake. It's everything at stake. So, what we can do is offer the value in terms of performance metrics, impressions and clicks and click-through rate, or plays and quartiles and completion rate. Advertisers may not understand that as much. So what we've been looking to do is add more performance value in terms of, we just did a partnership with Kachava, where we will associate a pixel on every single creative ad, as long as the advertiser puts that code snippet on their page for tracking. So if you do that and you run your ad, we automatically append the pixel, which could be tracking custom user events like page visits, conversions, orders. So you have that data readily available in our platform, and you can see how well it performs, not just the impression. We also partnered with a company called Brand Metrics, which also offers brand studies. So we have one of our publisher clients that uses them, and if you spend a certain amount of money on your campaign, you get a free Brand Metrics report, and you get that sent to you as a PDF. It's a deep analysis of how well did your campaign and your creative actually perform. So I think providing these types of tools natively in our platform is really important. And it goes up to the large agency, is that they want to understand the value that they're getting for their media spend. Like, we care about the little guy, but we also care about the holding company, and making sure that they're getting exactly what they want through self-serve. And it's not just some sort of gimmick. It's a real deal.
For the bigger publishers that have apps as well, which are not that big a percentage, but some of the very, very larger publishers, right? They encourage you to consume your content on the app, so they can use push notifications and try to get a higher level of engagement. So are you often also plugged into the ad server at the SDK level for the apps as well?
Well, yeah, I mean, we don't need to be integrated through the SDK. We're integrated into the ad server. So, their own ad server is then integrated into the SDK. So again, everything sits on the publisher side. As we, think about, let's say, you brought up programmatic and rebid earlier. So we're exploring that right now. And that also is something we have to worry about with cross-device and cross-platform inventory.
Mm-hmm.
So, we've been speaking with the team at Prebid, really trying to understand, what does self-serve look like when it's executed programmatic, but it's also guaranteed. It's a programmatic guaranteed deal, but then, if we're already pushing the ad server directly, how do we use the header in this whole configuration, and what's the benefit there?
Right.
So technically it's challenging, but we're looking to explore those different kind of scenarios. From a programmatic perspective, we have clients that integrate their own DSP in the system as well. So they're running audience extension off platform within audience cycle. So it's on their own and operated, but also like extended audience if they want to do that.
Right.
And again, we're agnostic in that approach.
Yeah, as long as it makes it to their ad server, then you can deal with it.
Yeah. Like again, like we're about facilitating. Like,
yeah.
And we're trying to open up, any of those like closed doors or those closed opportunities, particularly like for publishers that they're not necessarily a walled garden, but in some respect they have to be.
Mm-hmm.
In order to compete against Google and Facebook or other publishers. But then, within that gated, walled garden, what are you offering to the advertiser in that environment that makes it work well?
Yeah, the other thing that occurs to me is sometimes the mid-size advertisers are less likely to implement, let's call it marketing austerity, right? Where like budgets go through wild swings based on if you think a recession is coming, where some of these, media budgets that come in through the holding company type agencies, all of a sudden, 30% of the budget will disappear. And so I would imagine just from a risk mitigation perspective, a publisher really needs to have their self-serve footprint, right? To be able to make sure that if sudden they've got extra inventory there, they've got somebody there to buy it, who's valuing it properly.
Right. Yeah, and I don't know if the saying is still true, but no one ever got fired by buying on Facebook. Right. It's just one of those things. In order to have valuable inventory and a way for any advertiser to access it and to provide the value for it, like, you kind of need these systems in place, like self-serve, to be able to manage it. Otherwise, again, you're kind of just doing way too much manually, and you'll never be able to execute the way that you want to.
Right. So what has you excited about the next year?
Being 2024. AI is obviously on everybody's mind right now, and it's one of those things where you kind of wish it was just like a shiny object, and it'll just go the same way as blockchain. Yeah. Remember the ledger? How many media companies were built off blockchain or transacting through crypto? Never happened, and I don't see it necessarily happening. But AI is different. AI is, can be used in a variety of different ways. I'm using it just, to draft business cases and product briefs, to fix my language and my grammar. And then from the audio and video perspective that we offer, it's a really powerful tool. And then I'm thinking, okay, well, we have this publisher inventory that's, that we're ingesting into our platform, and we can see it, and we understand the configuration of it. What can we offer in terms of automating products through self-serve, so that we can understand when a publisher is either undersold or oversold, what's the right price threshold for this type of media, and how do we automate helping them understand their own inventory matrix to really develop something through our platform that makes sense for their business. So there's just a lot there from just our own small technology platform that'll use AI, but then how does it impact banking and travel and day-to-day work? I'm not that much of a visionary. But I can imagine that we're all going to be doing something slightly different going forward next year.
Yeah, we probably will. Final question is, it's probably going to be a bigger year than normal for political advertising next year. Do you think that that'll trickle all the way from the big ones, presidential, down into the hyper local, where given the fact that, a local politician running for, council person can stitch together an ad, right? Whereas they might never have been, in market before. Do you see sort of that as being a rising tide to maybe offset some of the other marketing austerity that might be happening?
Yeah, it'll be interesting what happens with political budgets. The last election season that I went through, there wasn't much of a bump. Or at least it didn't hit the way that we thought it would hit. And this is, not the presidential election, but
Right.
at midterms, it didn't really hit the way that we thought it would. And this is my past company. So it'll be interesting to see how much local floods versus national. I think everybody's hoping for it. Everybody can kind of use a boost. With the way that the economy has kind of struggled a bit to get recharged, and we're seeing interest rates and all the economic factors and everything. I'm hopeful for a strong political season. So, but I'll try to say my preference online.
Right, exactly. Well, thanks so much, Jeffrey, for joining me and discussing, your platform and how it's, publishers are evolving into, layering self-serve into their business model. It's pretty cool.
We appreciate it, Kevin, and hope you had a great Thanksgiving, and thanks for bringing me on today.
Thanks.
Kevin Lee's Power Marketing is available on all your favorite podcast networks. Kevin loves helping businesses excel at marketing. Having marketing challenges? Just like Santa in The Miracle on 34th Street, if Kevin can't help you, he'll know someone who can. Find him on LinkedIn, subscribe, or follow.